Hello, my name is Vic Turner, and today I'd like to introduce you to Sage Paperless Construction. Sage Paperless Construction is a content management and workflow automation solution. It's made up of two major components. The first component is the accounts payable routing and approval for all of your invoices with workflow to project managers for their approval. The second piece is overall document imaging, storage, and retrieval for all of your other documents, lien waivers, job photos, contracts, human resource documents, virtually any document in your office. Sage Paperless centralizes and electronically stores all of this vital business and project-related information in one safe, secure location where it's easy to access and retrieve data at any time. Sage Paperless also gives you the ability to see who has what documents, how long they've had it, etc. Before we actually take a look at the actual software, I want to take just a couple of minutes to talk about Sage Paperless and how it can help you become more organized and efficient. Also, I want to mention that for today's presentation, I'll be referring to Sage 300 Contractor, but Sage Paperless works exactly the same way, regardless of whether you're using Sage 100 Contractor or Sage 300 Contractor. This is a typical workflow scenario that may sound familiar to you. I've seen it many times. Invoices and other documents come in the door. Multiple copies are made and distributed. One goes in the job file, the vendor file, the billing file, etc. They then go, copy goes to the project manager for their approval. And so what happens at the end of the month, there's a bottleneck because project managers have invoices sitting on their desk for approval. Then when the checks have been written, somebody has to make copies of those documents and paper clip them to the check so that the person who's signing the check can verify that they have everything they need. Other ramifications such as billings that require backup from T&M billings, cost plus, et cetera, delayed, or maybe even worse, don't get billed. And then HR and other sensitive documents are often unsecured. So let's talk about the first major component, the accounts payable workflow with routing for invoice approval. The system starts off by capturing the document image and storing it electronically in one secure place called a vault. The invoices then are electronically routed to approvers based on predefined routing rules. Approvers then log in to approve, and alerts and emails are triggered if the invoices sit in their queue or their in basket too long, just based on settings that you set up when you install the system. Approved documents are updated and stored in the Paperless Vault, like I mentioned, but they're also attached to the records in the back office. So if you're doing a query in Sage 100 or Sage 300 relating to a record that has scanned documents in the vault, you can actually, through the query, you can drill down on the paperclip and it will open up the Sage Vault and show you any related documents. And passwords determine which documents users can access, edit, delete, etc. The other major component is the document imaging, storing, routing, even retrieval of all your other documents. So, lien waivers, job photos, contracts, human resource documents, whatever. So, what are the benefits of the Sage Paperless Construction? Well, first off, it saves time by eliminating the paper chase and wasted effort looking for lost or misplaced files. Improves productivity by providing easier access to a company and project-related documents. Efficiency is increased across your organization due to the automation of document distribution and a true invoice approval process. And there's a reduction of paperwork and administrative overhead by switching to an electronic-based document storage and workflow system. And overall, it can improve relationship with subcontractors as a result of better documentation and more timely payment of invoices. And last but not least, it eliminates the need for paper files and their storage requirements. So no more bottlenecks with invoices sitting on the project manager's desk waiting for approval. Documents don't get lost or misplaced. The AP process time from approval to payment is faster and more accurate. Billings, invoices don't get left out. Invoices can be indexed for pay requests and copied to a CD to be sent. So T&M bills, Cost Plus bills can actually be sent with the pay requests and all their backup on a CD with a viewer that your customer can then see electronically on a CD or a flash drive or whatever. And both enclosings are facilitated because, once again, documents aren't sitting around waiting to be processed. So let's take a look at the Sage Paperless construction. Switch over to, okay, this is the desktop of Sage Paperless Construction. So this is a view that someone might see when they first log in, depending on their security. Now, I've got full security rights in here, so I can see everything, and my desktop looks kind of busy because of that. An approver may have a very simple desktop with just 2 or 3 icons on it. There's all kinds of search tools, and so they might have the search tool icon on their desktop and whatnot. So once again, just like in your back office Sage 300 or Sage 100 contractor, the security determines what people can see or do on the system, in the system. And as you'll see as we go through it, alerts can be triggered if things sit on people's desks or certain conditions occur within the system. And I've also set up some graphs out here, and these are all user definable so that you can see different things, invoices that are sitting out there for approval, by status, document types. So here you can see many of the document types that I have set up in the system here. So we're going to start out by going into the accounts payable workflow. And so I'm going to wear multiple hats during this presentation. So I'm going to start out as the person at the front desk or whoever's responsible for scanning the invoices in. So first we'll talk about the AP invoice routing and approval. So that person would then click on an icon that says Enter Invoices, and then they have a queue. So everybody who works in the system will have a queue, and the queue is nothing more than, say, their desktop in their office. It would be a good analogy. There's many different ways to pull these documents in. I've got some scanned images out here, some invoices on my desktop, and I'm just going to click on those and tell the system to go ahead and pull those into my queue so I can start processing them. So now I've got a list of these invoices out here that I can start processing into the system. And we'll enter 1 or 2, and then we'll follow it through the workflow process. So we'll start off just by saying Enter Invoice. Now, whether you have paperless or don't have paperless, you've got to enter the invoice in your system. So what we do is we kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone. We are indexing and saving this document in the vault, secured, so that you have 1 copy of it, but we're also entering it into your back office. So as I enter this is going to take the place of your invoice entry in Sage 100 or Sage 300 contractor. So I'm just going to type in part of the vendor's name and do a lookup, and as you can see, it's reaching into the back office here and pulling up a list of all of my available vendors. And I'll put in an invoice number, and I'm getting a warning, and you'll see these pop up. The system is obeying all the rules that you have set up, once again, in Sage 300 in the background. So, any compliance issues or anything else, it's telling me this invoice has already been paid. I've probably used it many times in this presentation. So I'm just going to go ahead and say yes. And we'll just give it a brief description here. Give it an invoice date. So I'm filling out the header screen in the accounts payable entry just like you would in the back office, and I'll give it a control total amount here. So I'm filling out the header, And now I have some options. This might be just a general expense that there's no purchase order for. I can just enter the GL number in the description. It might be a job-related expense that doesn't have a purchase order or subcontract agreement. But if I have purchase orders and subcontracts, I can link those together, and I think I may have some out here. So I'm going to tell the system to just query and see what purchase orders that I may have sitting out here for this particular vendor. So, and I can see that I do, and I'll choose that particular purchase order. And once again, I'm getting some compliance warnings here. So it's just following all the rules that we have set up in your back office system here. And I'll tell it to go ahead and continue. So I've got two purchase order lines here, and I can select one or the other. I can change the units received, whatever. I'm going to say select all and add to the invoice. Now, the nice part about this is that it has actually pulled in all of the distributions here from my line items in the back office, and I can see that. Let me get my PowerPoint out the way. So, and I can also see that I've got a difference here of 10 cents. So when I put in my control total up here, I didn't put in the right amount on the invoice, so I'll correct that. And so now I can see that I've fully distributed all the lines. Now, I could change any of these codings if I wanted to down here in the body of the screen. I could delete one. I could change the amount. Just like in your back office, when I match it up against a purchase order or subcontract, it's pulling in the values from that document. So everything looks good here, except that I know that I did have some compliance issues. And once again, if this was just a general administrative or a job or whatever, I wouldn't pull it out of the PO. I'd just come into the body of this and I would start putting in my job number and distributions for cost code, amount, and so forth and so on. I got an alert here, and I want the person that I'm routing this to for approval to take some action here. So I'm going to add a little sticky note to this, and I'm going to say process invoice, but hold payment until receipt of compliance items. And I can even set up an alert here to tell me to tell me when certain things have happened downstream, when it gets to the next person in line, which would be the approver. So I'm going to just tell it now to go ahead and route this. The system knows from where we set it up who's responsible for approving what invoices on whatever jobs. So here we can see that Vincent Pate is responsible for this one. Now, I could set up multiple approvers. I could set up proxy approvers if Vincent's on vacation. I could say Vic is the one that's going to approve them for this week. I could also set up rules that say Vincent is the approver on this job, unless if the invoice is over, say, $10,000, after Vincent approves it, then somebody else has to approve it. So there's a lot of flexibility as how you can set up these routing rules. Or I could have just processed this invoice and not routed it at all. So right here on the right here with the approval button when I was inputting the invoice information. So I'm just going to say route this, and pulls up my next invoice. And so we would just go through those one invoice at a time, matching them up against purchase orders or subcontract agreements, or just inputting the data right away. And then the person who is responsible for approving those, I'm going to put on a different hat now. I'm the approver, and I've gotten a notification that I've got some invoices to be approved. So I'm going to log in, and when I log in, as I mentioned earlier, I may only see just a very simple menu with just a few items in it. Approve invoices. Now, once again, because I demonstrate this for all the products and I'm supervisor, I'm going to see everybody's queue here. But if Vincent were logging in, he would only see Vincent's, and he would only see it for his Sage 300. So I can see out here right now that I've got some documents that I had already routed to Vincent, and I've got the invoice here that we entered earlier that we just sent to him. So I can say, I could just say approve it. So I'm Vincent now, and I'm looking at this. I can say approve it. I could also say show me any related documents. So if there's a purchase order or subcontract agreement that I want to look at before I make any decisions here, I can then pull up those related documents, and it's going to pull those up. So it might be lien waivers, it might be purchase orders, receiving tickets, subcontract agreements, whatever. Once we index something into the system, it then becomes linked by value to any related documents which are also in the system. So you've got a nice cross-reference there. I could also, you can see my notes here where I told it to place it on hold, so I could just click on hold here if I wanted to. I can also add some sticky notes and so forth. So you might have some stamps out here with the person's, maybe their signature on it here. So I'm going to just pull in my signature real quick. And maybe I wanted to add a little text note, so I could add a sticky note here. I could do, I've got a number of just different pre-approved stamps, whatever. Or I could, put in a sticky note that said hold pending, payment of receipt, whatever, et cetera. So hold pending receipt. So I'm sending it. I'm going to go ahead and send this on into the system, but I want the person receiving it to know that we do need to put this on hold. Insurance certificate. So I'll just say okay, and then I would just pull up my next invoice in the. I would go ahead and say approve this. Now, if there were multiple approvers, that would send it to the next person in line. In my case, I'm the last approver, so it's going to go into a batch that'll be ready to be processed, and that will be the next thing that we do here. So, but as an approver, I would just come through one by one, and I would pull in my different invoices that have been routed to me, and then take whatever action, approve them. I could reroute them back through the system. I could reject them. I could put them on hold. As you can see, I've got a number of things that I can do here. See any related documents, whatever. So the approvers come in, they approve these invoices in this manner, and then another person, it might be the same person who'd enter these, it may not be, it might be your regular accounts payable person, they would log in and they've got access to what we call the Invoice Manager. And this gives me kind of a global look at really anything in the system, and I can say I want to see any approved invoices, any ones that are out for alert, any ones that are incomplete. I can see any that are rejected, et cetera, et cetera. But I would come in here, the normal workflow would be that I would come in here and I would say all the ones that are approved. And so now I can pick and choose which ones, maybe based on posting period or whatever, that I want to actually send to my back office, Sage 100 or Sage 300, as an accounts payable entry. I could also, at this point, send it back through the system. So depending on the security or the rules that you, authority that you give this person, I can shoot this back through the system. I can send it to somebody else down the line for approval, whatever. Or I could just say, go ahead and export those, and then it's going to ask me the posting date and period there. That will then, that's when this will actually physically become attached to the records in Sage 100 Contractor or Sage 300 Contractor. Now, I also want to mention that I can bring in other documents here. So we mentioned there's two pieces of this puzzle here, or two pieces of this product, the accounts payable workflow and indexing and storage and routing and approval and retrieval, but also all of your other office documents. So once again, there's many ways that I can pull documents into the system, but I've got some documents out here that I've stored on my desktop, and I'll just pull in something here that it doesn't really matter what it is. I think I've got as you can see, I've got a number. It could be journal entries. It could be a lien waiver. Anything really that you want to store. And in this case, I can just drag and drop it. And when I drag it and drop it, I can do a number of things. So this is just one of the many ways that I can pull a document in. So now the system's going to want me to apply index values to it. So when we entered the accounts payable invoice, we were applying the indexes to it as we were entering the invoice. But since this is not an accounts payable document, we have to tell it how we want it stored in the system. We have to tell it what kind of document it is, and so that we can retrieve it properly. So we'll say this is a project management document, and then so within categories I have types. And you can build these out. We've got probably as many as you can think of just based on our users over a period of time. But I know this is a lien waiver here. So now I can put this in. So if this was Barth Electric, for example, I could once again do a query into my back office here. It's then going to pull in, it pulled in the vendor name, as you can see. So if I tell it, okay, what kind of vendor type? Now it's just reaching into my back office here for values that I've got stored, in this case in Sage 300 Contractor. And so the date, put in the date. The job number, I'll just query that, but I probably would know that automatically. So now it's got the values, when I say index this, to save it in the vault so I can now retrieve it any way that I want to. So this is an example of any document other than accounts payable invoices to how we would store it in the system. And once again, I could say route this to somebody immediately afterwards if I wanted to. And I could say stored as read only. So if it's like a legal document or a payroll document or something, I could tell it store it, but don't let anybody modify it. So we've got all these documents in here. Now, how do we find those out of the system? There's a number of tools here, and I've got a search tool. So I could say I want to see all of my documents, and it would pull all of them up. I could say I want to see just my accounts payable documents, and I could even narrow that search down. So accounts payable, and I could narrow that down and say I want to see it for a specific vendor. So maybe that Barth. And tell it search, and it's going to find everything related to Barth Electric. Now I can also open that document from here. I can see the approval stamps and so forth. I can see the index of that, so how it's the values that it's stored by. I can see everything that's happened to this document as it lives in the system. So as documents get stored and processed and handled throughout their life, anytime they're touched, there's a complete audit trail of who saw it, who changed it, what date, what time, et cetera, et cetera. So that's just one way that I can retrieve these. I also have another tool that I can come out and I can print a series of reports. So maybe I've got somebody who's been really bad about not returning their invoices in a timely manner. I can say I want to see a outstanding aging approval by, so unapproved invoice aging by a reviewer here. So I want to just do a preview of that. These are all crystal reports. So I can, now I've got my reviewers here, and I've got an aging of the documents and how long they've sat on their desk. And I can actually drill down on these values as well. So if I double click on that, that then opens up detail, and then I can actually drill down on those individual ones till I actually see the actual document here. So there's many, many different ways that we can store and retrieve and find these documents once they're in the system, but once again, we only have one copy. We don't have multiple copies floating around. They're secured They're controlled by password security, et cetera, so that people who shouldn't be looking at a specific document like a human resource document can't see that particular document in the system. And I think what I'll do now is just kind of give you a preview of how this might show up in your back office here. So I've got Sage 300 running in the background, and I've got a job query. So any of you Sage 300 users will be familiar with this view, but it could be a vendor inquiry. It could be any kind of inquiry. If it's 100 contractor, the same thing applies. If I'm inquiring and I see anything attached to the paperclip, I can open up the paperclip. This is a link to the Sage Paperless viewer. So I'm going to tell it to go ahead and show me all the related documents for this. And so the viewer pops up, and I've got multiple windows here. Let me pull the popping up in my other window here. So here are all the different document types that are stored for that. And I can sort them by document type, but I can see them as I scroll through here. I can see everything. So whether it's cost data, or if it's, you're viewing an employee and you see his driver, maybe scanning a driver's license, or COBRA documents, or I-9 or whatever, they're all attached to these records in the back office. And as I'm doing queries in my back office system, I can now retrieve those documents that are related to that, to those transactions in the system here. So we've looked at how we got all these documents in. Excuse me. We looked how we've retrieved them and so forth. There's one more piece of this that I would like to point out to you, and there's a lot more as well. But your check reviewers, another typical scenario that I see when I go out in the field, people will, the check approver will want copies of all the supporting documentation pulled up by check number and attached, all the documents paperclip to the check, so that when they're signing the checks, they can see everything they need to make sure that that it's okay to go ahead and sign this check. So what I'm doing now is I'm querying back into my back office Sage 300, giving it the checking count number and the check range of the checks that I've got sitting here on my desk, and I can scroll through these, and as I do that, I can see everything related to this. So this is a check to Barth Electric. As I'm looking at the invoice here, I can see their subcontract agreement, and I can also see their conditional lien waiver. And I have a complete history, once again, of everything that has been done to that document in the system here. So this has just been kind of a high-level view of some of the many capabilities of the Sage 100 paperless contractor. I'm going to flip back over here briefly to my PowerPoint presentation just to kind of close this out here. And I'll just go to, I just wanted to kind of recap here what we've talked about. There's, as I talked about earlier, and I'll just flip back to this other slide here just to kind of reiterate some of the benefits. Once again, as you can see, it'll save time. It's going to improve productivity, increase your efficiency with all the automated document distribution and true invoice approval. Reduces the paperwork. You don't have multiple copies laying around everywhere. There's one image stored electronically forever. It can be retrieved in many different ways. And there's all kinds of side benefits, improving relationship with subcontractors because they're going to get paid in a more timely manner. And last but not least, it eliminates the need for all of these filing cabinets that you have sitting around holding multiple copies of the same documents. So no more bottlenecks with invoices sitting on project manager's desk waiting for approval. Documents don't get lost. AP processing time from approval to payment is faster, and many other benefits here. associated with this. And so if you would like any additional information, my name is Vic Turner, but if you would call Alliance Solutions Group at the number here, or click on this, on the link here for Alliance Solutions Group, then they can arrange for a more in-depth demonstration, answer any questions, maybe set up a more detailed one-on-one presentation of the software, whatever. So I just want to thank you and for your time.